Time to sound off, Husker Nation. This is your Real Red Reaction Show on Lincoln's KFOR. Call the show now at 402-489-1240.
Welcome to it. It's the Real Red Reaction Show here on KFOR FM 101.5, 1240 AM, and also streaming online at KFORnow.com as Nebraska gets a 28-14 victory over Louisiana Tech, and we want to hear from you. It's Will Wilson, Connor Clark, and Elijah Herbal taking you through this reaction show today. We'll also have Chris Schmidt and JP from Kicks joining us here a little bit later in the show as they get all the post-game reaction. It took a weather delay, but we did eventually reach final. Guys, another win from Nebraska. I think that's the first and foremost thing you need to address. They got the win. It wasn't always pretty, but Nebraska back to 500 on the season as they get ready to welcome Michigan to town next week. We'll get to that, I'm sure, a little bit later in the show, but for now, we'll talk Nebraska and Louisiana Tech. Guys, Connor, Will, how are we doing today? It's a good day to get a Husker win. I think it's as simple as that. Connor, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it's a good day to get a win, and I guess it really doesn't matter what it looks like, right? I mean, you have the weather delay. It was kind of a bad game just from a football perspective. The defense didn't look as sharp as it has the first three games, I think. Your offense struggled to get going, especially in that first half. And unfortunately, the rain delay had to push things back a little bit. Really didn't have any effect on the outcome of the game. But I think Nebraska could have played a lot better. If you're looking forward in the season, I hate to be the guy who overreacts, but I would still be kind of concerned with how this group is moving forward, especially after today's performance. Maybe a little bit of overlooking Louisiana Tech. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, but other than that, Nebraska gets a 2-score win. That's all that matters at the end of the day. You get another number in the win column, and although it wasn't pretty, you're to 500 for the first time under Matt Rule, and you get to move forward into Big Ten play.
Well said, Connor. Boys, it's good to be back on Real Red Reaction. I just got home not that long ago. Downtown was popping before the game. You know, I was kind of worried. I talked to like 10 different people who tried to sell their tickets, and they weren't getting any buyers. So, you know, it's one of those situations where you couldn't give away the tickets. But Memorial Stadium looked packed. I got caught a little bit of the game. I was working at the bar, of course. But I know the O-line started out slow. I'm still kind of worried about them. I think Harburg played a good game for, all things considered. He got the win, which is nice. I think he has a lot more offense right now than Sims, which I think is a big thing, and which is why I think we may see Heinrich start next game. But I thought, the running back, Anthony Grant, I think he's comfortable, and I'm really excited to see him moving forward. Yeah, we lost some guys, but I'm confident in him. Defense, for some reason, don't know, the intensity wasn't quite there. Elijah, you told me that kind of before the stream, but hey guys, a win's a win. Happy to be home. Go Big Red.
Yeah, and I think Brett hits the nail on the head here with his latest comment in here in the stream. No, it wasn't pretty, but we'll take it.
Certainly
I think that is the exact way to put that game. It was not pretty. Did I enjoy watching it? No, it was choppy with the media timeouts and the weather delay hits. And I think most Husker Nation sits back and goes, maybe Louisiana Tech just wants to get on the plane and we can get done with this. Is, as Brennan said, a terribly messy game from the weather to the offensive execution to some of that intensity from the defense, especially in the first half. But a win is a win. And I think Nebraska fans can feel good that I don't think Nebraska brought their A game today and they still were able to escape with a win. It didn't necessarily feel like a step forward, though, from the Northern Illinois game. And that's what Matt Rule has been preaching through a lot of this fall, especially through the first 2 weeks. That it's about getting better every single week. I'm not sure Nebraska looked better than they did last week. The offensive line still struggled with blitz pickups, and that left side of the offensive line still definitely struggled with their pass protection. The defense, they got a turnover at the end. So according to the stats, hey, maybe they took a step forward. You get that little token interception at the end in order to get yourself positive in turnover differential, which is another thing you look back at on the stats and be happy about. Nebraska was positive in the turnover differential. I don't think the win today looked as impressive as it did against Northern Illinois. I don't think from a throwing the football perspective, Heinrich Harburg inspired a whole bunch of confidence with what he can do against Michigan. But the simple fact of the matter is it's hard to nitpick a win like that because the name of the game, the objective of the game is to go and win and have more points whenever that clock hits triple zeros. Nebraska did that today. I think you can be happy about that, but I think this coaching staff will still have plenty they can work on from this game moving forward. I particularly look at the offensive line. I look at the passing game, and then I just look at that general defensive intensity. It didn't quite look the same as it had the past 3 weeks. Maybe that's because it's Louisiana Tech, and maybe it's because you're looking ahead a little bit to Michigan, knowing what's on deck. You just want to get the win and get out. Nebraska does that today, but it could have been a lot more impressive. I don't think it's going to inspire much confidence in what Nebraska faces in Michigan next week.
Well, as Schmitty said on the pregame show earlier today from noon to 2, I mean, he mentioned the importance of how important getting a win was today in order for you to try and get to a postseason berth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, getting to 2-2, that looks a lot better than 1-3. And I think all of us in this room know that. Again, was not a pretty game. And that's something that, A, you're going to have, and B, you're just going to have to live with moving forward. It's over. It's done. You won by 2 scores. You got one of the best teams in the country that looked a little pedestrian in the first half against Rutgers today. They really cleaned it up in that second half over at the Big House in Michigan. And honestly, give Rutgers credit. I think they're better than all of us thought that they would be so far this year in the young season. So big week coming up. Glad that Nebraska was able to get a win. Obviously, Heinrich Haarberg, I think, could throw the ball better. We saw what he could do with his wheels. That 72-yard touchdown run was absolutely massive. Another toss to Fedoni that found the end zone. Billy Kemp got in the end zone again. You really like hearing those two names, I think, in the passing game, getting into the end zone. Fedoni, Kemp, that's going to be your 1-2 punch. You're going to get a Marcus Washington every now and then. You're going to get a big run from Heinrich Haarberg every now and then. As Will said, Anthony Grant showed a lot of what he could do here today, making a lot of people miss tackles wise, hitting holes, being elusive. He broke off a couple of big runs. Now, unfortunately, one of those big runs that went to the house was called back due to a flag, but you saw a glimpse of what he can bring to the table starting running back wise. I think the biggest concern right now, too, well, maybe not the biggest, but it's tied for the biggest, is the offensive line. And that sort of protection, whether that's run blocking, pass blocking, that really raised my eyebrows today. I know we were talking about how that group has seemed to take steps forward, but today seemed like a step back, and that's something that really, really concerns me with the top 5 team coming to Lincoln next week.
I agree. You mentioned the Anthony Grant run. I mean, it was wiped away by a holding penalty. That's something we've got to clean up by next week because Michigan will tear us apart if we are driving back big plays with penalties. And that's something we've seen for how long now, 5 years in a row. You really hope you don't see that next week or else it could be a very long night. But, the O-line, it's something that worries me. But Haarberg, you're right, Connor. His legs look really good, and that's something that, of course, Sims could do. But when it comes to the throwing ability, we know Haarberg's the guy in that area. So, I'm excited to see what he could do next week. But that O-line, it's got to clean things up for sure.
Yeah, and you wonder about Teddy Prohaska. It's something I tweeted about during the game. Whenever Teddy Prohaska came in as that extra offensive lineman, they lined him up next to Ben Hart, and those two dudes were putting in work. There was a one whole drive where they just ran the ball right every single play. It was that one that Anthony Grant punched in from about 3 yards out where he had the 4th and 1 conversion, another time that they ran right. They put Teddy Prohaska in that football game. Him next to Bryce Benhart was opening up some lanes on that right side of the line of scrimmage. I think that can inspire some confidence moving forward that the left side of the offensive line can get better. Teddy Prohaska, he's got the frame of a left tackle, got that NFL type body. You see the way he's able to move guys in the run support and I don't want to sit here and anoint him because we haven't seen him play all that much football, but I think it's pretty easy to say that's a guy that's going to be a step up over what Turner Corcoran has given you. Turner Corcoran has not been good, to put it lightly. I don't want to sugarcoat things. He has not been good at that left tackle spot. I think what I saw from Teddy Prohaska today is a guy that's getting closer to being able to be a full go. I wonder if the coaching staff wanted to get him geared up for a Michigan game next week. Whenever you have a top 5 team in the country come into town, you want to be able to put your best players out there. I think it's going to be on the coaching staff and that training staff to be able to get him ready to go for next week. I think that could be a boon, but simply put, without looking too far ahead, Michigan is a litmus test of where you're at, but they're not your measuring stick as for this season. You can play next week with really not all that much to lose in terms of the fact that nobody is going to predict you to go beat Michigan. It's not going to be like the Colorado game.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself by talking about the Michigan game, because what I saw today did not inspire confidence that Nebraska can go play toe-to-toe with Michigan. Michigan's a damn good football team. Their defense is elite. Their offense does just enough. They play Big Ten complementary football in that way. And Nebraska had times of playing that Big Ten complementary football day, and I think you saw it in the second half how the body blows of the rushing attack wore on Louisiana Tech's defense. That is the same story as last week. The offensive line definitely improved after halftime in both of these games, learning how to pick up some blitzes and getting more of a push in the right running game. But yeah, it's hard to feel great leaving this game here against Louisiana Tech. The defense, I give them a solid B- in their performance today. It wasn't as good as we saw in other games. That's establishing Northern Illinois as your baseline for an A. I think it was a B- to C+ type performance from the defense. Offensively, throwing the football, it's a D. In my humble opinion, I did not think the passing game was that good, but the rushing attack and how they were able to get space, especially whenever the running backs and Harburg himself as well, where it's able to get outside, you're able to make some noise that way. I'll give the rushing attack a B to B+, just because of how you're able to wear on Louisiana Tech. You did enough. Matt Rule's style is not a pretty style of football. I don't think he's going to talk about how ugly the win was today. A win is a win in his book, and that's the style of football it's won for years in the Big Ten. It's the kind of football that wins in the elements when it gets cold in November, when it gets rainy in September. The style of football that Nebraska plays is the style of football that does that. So I don't think Matt Rule is going to be disappointed about how ugly the win was today, but I think Husker fans can rightfully be a little bit worried about what's going to happen next week whenever one of the best teams in the country comes to your house.
You know, I would argue that you could give the Nebraska rushing attack an A today.
Really?
Because even though it was a two-man show, you dominated Louisiana Tech on the ground. I mean, after Monday, think about it. You lose Gabe Ervin for the season. You lose Ramir Johnson for the season. Everybody's up in arms. And then you come out and you look at the box score, 48 carries in total as a team for 312 yards. That's something that I didn't expect. Obviously, Harburg with 157 of those on 19 carries. I mean, he carried the ball a ton. Anthony Grant with 22 carries for 135 yards, both of them with a touchdown. I mean, that was a two-headed monster today. And again, you have to consider the opponent, which I am trying to do. But 312 yards is a ton. I agree with your assessment on the passing. That's where you got killed in this game. I mean, Louisiana Tech had 46 rushing yards, but they had 292 yards through the air, while you only had 107. So that's where Nebraska was gashed here today. And rushing attack-wise, fine. I think, AG did his thing. I think Harburg did his thing. Again, the long touchdown run helps. But if you would have told me after that Monday press conference that this team's going to have 300-plus yards on the ground after all of that depletion in your running back room, I think I would have been pretty pleasantly surprised. And now looking at that number, I'm pretty pleasantly surprised despite the result that was today. And again, it almost sounds like we're talking about a loss in some ways. They still won. They won by 14 points. And again, that kind of sets the standard, I guess, for what people are looking at in the program, which I think is good. You want to have a convincing win against a non-Power 5 opponent. You really couldn't do that today, but at the end of the day, you're 2-2. It's a clean slate. You have 8 more games, so you got to win at least 4 of them. You got to go 4-4 in the next 8 games if you really want to get to where you want to get in year 1 of the Matt Rule era. We'll see how that goes. It's going to be difficult, and again, we're going to be talking about this all week. The big bad Wolverines coming to the house next week. So how are you going to move on from this and be better just all around?
And well, I don't want to jump ahead of you here. I just want to quickly say it is the Real Red Reaction Show on KFOR. That's FM 101.5, 1240 AM. Also online, KFORnow.com, the Hail Varsity YouTube page, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter page, and the Real Red Reaction YouTube page is all places you can check it out. And if you have some thoughts on the game, hop in the stream. That's the Hail Varsity YouTube page or the Real Red Reaction YouTube page. Leave us a comment or give us a call, 402-489-1240. We have open phone lines for you. Connor will field your call. We'll get you on the air and you can get your thoughts on a long, at times painful Husker victory over Louisiana Tech. So give us a call. Let us know what you have to think. We still have another about 75 minutes left here of this post-game show, so we'd love to hear from you. Get your thoughts. We'll get your reaction. We'll get you out. I won't take up too much of your time, but we'd love to hear from you. Will, I turn it back over to you. Didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I know you had a point you were going to bring up.
No, I like what Connor said about the pass defense. It wasn't great, but I look at the game as a whole. And Connor, you mentioned at the beginning of the game, you're not guessing or anything, but looking ahead. I'm okay if we were looking ahead. I know it's easy to say now after we won the game, but I'm totally fine with them looking ahead because, like you guys said, Michigan is a different beast. And, if you watch the defense, it kind of looks like a team who was looking ahead. I don't know if I'm alone on that. Of course, you were without Len Hart, so hopefully he's healthy enough to go next week. Maybe they were sitting him for that reason, so he can get fully healthy until Michigan. But you mentioned you showed that comment from Wayne about hearing Smoke Harrison his nightmares. How about DeColdis Crawford coming in, getting his first few catches in Memorial Stadium? Good for that guy, and causing that interception at the end.
And DeColdis Crawford even making a tackle during that game as he was out blocking in front of, I can't remember which Louisiana Tech running back it was, and he ended up making the tackle on the play. So secret agent DeColdis Crawford still making plays for the Huskers even after leaving.
Yeah, even after leaving. I mean, that's what you get, I guess, when you come back to your former school.
Do you think he can get his NIL deal for one more day since he's back in Lincoln?
You might as well just give him a shot, right? Might as well.
Let's quickly take you through the post-game stats from this one. Connor gave you a couple, but I'll get you some of the key stats. Obviously, one I laid out, 0 turnovers for this Husker football team today. They were positive in the turnover differential as they got that late interception. Isaac Gifford, the pride of Lincoln Southeast, Knight pride. As my fellow Knights stand up out there, Isaac Gifford gets the pick. Nebraska is positive in turnover differential. I think one thing you can look at from that is Harburg wasn't perfect in keeping the ball out of danger. There was one, I think, that very realistically, it was on that first drive, should have been picked off. It wasn't. That was about the only mistake from him. You could also look at that Tommy Hill fumble on the second half kickoff. Don't know how the hell he got back on top of that one. Hats off to him for being able to get back on top of his own fumble. But two big moments that stand out to me in terms of being moments where Nebraska probably should have turned the football over, but didn't. At the end of the day, all that matters is whether or not you do. They don't turn the football over, and they are positive in turnover differentials. That's something to look at. Nebraska also winning the time of possession with just under 32 minutes of time of possession. Louisiana Tech just over 28 minutes of time of possession. Neither team great on third down, 3 of 12 from Louisiana Tech, 3 of 11 from Nebraska. Nebraska picking up 20 first downs, 419 total yards of offense. That's 312 on the ground, 107 through the air. And the final stats, I'll get you. Nebraska 8 of 18 through the air, which is kind of one of the things I talked about in terms of not a performance that inspires confidence moving forward. When you look at Michigan coming to town next week, and then also 6 penalties for 55 yards for the Huskers. As for Louisiana Tech, 12 penalties for 100 yards. Connor?
Well, you got to give a shout out to old Thunderfoot Brian Buschini as well today. 6 punts, averaged 45 yards on each of them, 5 of them inside of the 20. Maybe I'm being a special teams nerd, but hey, that's something we talked about in the pregame show about how important that phase of the game is, and even on Friday. And Brian Buschini with another nice game with his leg. I know he struggled at Colorado, but I think his last 2 performances in Memorial Stadium have been quite well, and you got to win the field position battle. Tristan Alvano didn't miss an extra point today either. He did miss a field goal, but that was it. So you got some pretty good stuff from your special teams guys as well.
And the fake field goal, Will. I'm not sure if you got a chance to see this from your shift. Fake field goal. I didn't know Nebraska was allowed to have positive momentum building teams on special teams. I didn't know that was possible. As they pull around Ethan Piper, the left guard, the sea of red opens up, and Timmy Bleekrode goes right through. He picks up the first down. I think he had eyes for the end zone, tripped over Ethan Piper's legs, but it was beautiful. And Nebraska used that momentum to score. Will, you get a chance to see that play?
I did, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I don't even think I've seen a fake field goal as a Nebraska fan. I'm serious. I can't think of the last time I've seen that. And I loved every second of it. It was a hell of a call. The field goal, it was a very bad field goal. I know the kid's a freshman. I think I maybe could have made that thing. And I quit soccer when I was 5. So I'm pretty happy with the special teams. They made some good plays, especially on the punt defense, as Notre Dame just misses a field goal. Funny enough how we're talking about that. 0-0, by the way, in that game. And now, by the way, as my mic was muted, I was laughing because I just saw the final score of that Oregon-Colorado game. Oh, my goodness.
We'll get to that a little bit later in the post-game show, but we'll start off with the Huskers. While we're talking field goals, Penn State, Iowa is pulled up to my right here, and Penn State is attempting a field goal to take the lead late in the first quarter. It's a 44-yard attempt for the Nittany Lions. We'll let you know how that goes here in just a second. But I think overall, when you talk about the special teams, it was a net positive despite the missed field goal. You get that momentum build from the fake field goal in the first quarter. I think that really helped generate enough momentum for the score as the kick from Penn State is up, veering left, and it is good. Man, he just sneaks it within the left upright. So after talking about missed field goals, Penn State takes the lead on a field goal. They're up 3-0 on Iowa. That's your live up to the minute coverage with the Real Red Reaction show. But yeah, as you kind of laid out, Connor, the punting was good today. You saw that awesome play from the pride of Binkelman, Nebraska's Phelan Sanford, again making a special teams play as he knocks the ball out on that punt return and it goes out of play. But I think that was one of the momentum building plays you look for. Obviously, you have the missed field goal. You also have Tommy Hill fumbling that kickoff. He's able to land on top of it. So overall, I think I'll give the special teams a B- or a B today. You'd like to have the field goal, but I think you can look back and in a 14-point victory, you're not going to be too upset about a missed field goal. You're just glad it didn't happen in a closer game.
No, I think that's a fair assessment. And again, you have a lot of things to clean up. I mean, even defensively, I think today's the most missed tackles we've seen in a game thus far. And luckily for the unit, it wasn't anything super consequential when they did miss tackles. It was still a lot of like that swing pass or screen pass on the outside. You maybe whiff on one or two of them, and it's a gain of 6 or 7, right? And that's something that this team has been so good at, though, throughout the year. I mean, we're so used to seeing Nebraska teams of old miss those tackles and make a gain of 4 turn into a gain of 12, right? And they've been so good at tackling in space. That's something that I thought we didn't really see a lot of today, at least effectively. So that's something that you got to clean up. We talked about the O-line. That's something you got to clean up. The passing game needs to evolve at some point in time. The rushing game is fine. And I think there are some, minor things, minor details that you could be better at in special teams. I think getting on top of the fumbles is important. I mean, that's something that you've struggled with a lot in the last couple of years, losing those fumbles. So being aware where the football is when it's on the ground, even if you coughed it up, if you get back on top of it, that shows that, hey, at least you know what the hell is going on, right? So that's always really important. And limiting the turnovers, having 0 turnovers today, as you said, Elijah, that's something that's crucial, just extremely crucial, especially what we saw through the first 2.5 games. I mean, not giving up the ball, especially against an opponent that hung around. Give La Tech credit. They hung around, but you weren't able to turn the ball over, which is good. You won the turnover margin, and you won the game. That's the end of the story.
And I think while you can credit Louisiana Tech for hanging around, that was a Husker team that, especially defensively in the first about 20 minutes of that game, played really flat. The offensive line wasn't as crisp as you would have liked it to be. It was just a team performance that felt flat. And eventually the body blows took their toll. I think Nebraska was able to assert control in that football game in the second quarter, and they never quite looked back from there. I guess I should say the third quarter, assert control in the third quarter. They never quite looked back. But it was just a team performance that looks flat, but I also don't think that is necessarily a reason for concern, this team being flat. You can understand it. A rainy, kind of depressing day at Memorial Stadium in September. It's Louisiana Tech. You're at 1-2. You got Michigan looming next week. I understand a team not coming out flat, or not coming out with juice and intensity. You wish they would have gotten it back in their hands before the halftime intermission. It took until the second half. I don't know. It's just a game that makes you feel blah at the end, because there wasn't unforced errors. That's what we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks from that offensive side of the ball, at least not to the extent that we saw against Minnesota or Colorado. Yeah, I should say. But it wasn't a performance that inspired confidence like Northern Illinois last week. Northern Illinois, the defense was flying around. The offense had that intensity on the first drive. Heinrich Harburg looked like he brought a spark to the offense. Don't think you quite saw that today. And I'm not sure how much of that is reason for concern moving forward. The things I do see that are reasons for concern moving forward, the pass protection in the offensive line, specifically that left side of the offensive line. You hope Prohaska is back sooner rather than later. And then just overall, how long it took Nebraska to get into this football game. I as I kind of laid out, I'm not sure how much of a reason for concern that is moving forward. But it is a reason for concern nonetheless. And then the tackling from the defense, that hasn't been the story we've seen from them thus far this year. That's why I wonder if that's kind of an element of flatness and that's not something you should be concerned about, or if Louisiana Tech was able to exploit something with the way their offense is set up, the dink into the dunk and the shiftiness that they have at the skill positions.
Should probably turn my mic on. We have Will on the line, first caller at the Real Red Reaction Show. Go ahead, Will. If we got you.
Will, you have us?
How about now?
I hear you on the other end, Will.
Maybe.
Let's see. Can Will hear us? Will, you got us here on the Real Red Reaction Show?
Oh.
There's somebody on that other end of the phone line.
Let me try and get that fixed.
Hello?
There he is. Will, you got us?
Will.
I don't think Will can hear us.
Oh, that might be my fault. Will, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
There
There
it
we
is. Will,
go.
you're on with the Real Red Reaction Show. What do you got for us today?
Oh man, what a showing. Not good at all. I see this as maybe our last win this year.
Really?
What about the performance today makes you say that?
Our defense.
Okay.
I thought our defense was playing really, really good these last few weeks until today. And now that I've thought about it and I've seen 3 or 4 games now, I think Nebraska's been overhyped on that end. And Colorado, they beat us pretty good. And Colorado just got their butts kicked today. So I'm thinking our team is average at best, below average probably going through this whole season. And I don't see another winnable game except maybe Illinois.
I love that. I love the amendment at the end. Illinois look pretty bad too. Well, thanks for the phone call today. As you can give us a call in at the Real Red Reaction Show, 402-489-1240. And I don't necessarily think I am with Will in terms of the doom and gloom of this one. At the end of the day, the defense wasn't always impressive. The tackling wasn't always great, but Louisiana Tech still only had 7 points up until garbage time. You come back from a weather delay, and I think everything after that I kind of throw to the side. It's hard to get geared back up for a football game. So a garbage time touchdown, I am a little less worried about. The defense bowed up whenever they had to, and they got off the field. So I'm not doom and gloom about the defensive performance. I don't think it was as good as we've seen in previous weeks, but from what I saw today, can't sit back and say, man, the defense is a reason for concern moving forward. I just think you ran into a Louisiana Tech team that had some skill, some shiftiness at those skill positions, made you miss a couple times. Louisiana Tech was always going to pick up yards today. I think the credit to Nebraska's defense is that they were able to get off the field except for that one drive in the first half.
Okay, I'm going to bring up a conversation that I had with one Bill Dolman earlier this week in the hallways of the journalism school at the University of Nebraska. And this kind of goes along with what Will had to say in his phone call. So he's talking with a couple other people, and they're talking about how, like, naming off winnable games on the schedule. And so I walk in, and look, I don't want to be a super pessimistic person, especially when it comes to this football program, but it's hard not to sometimes. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Nebraska's not going to win another game this year, but I don't think it's fair to say that the rest of the games in the Big Ten West that you have on your schedule are winnable, because you're also not that good. And I know that they won today, and I know that we were talking about the positives, and there are positives, don't get me wrong. But overall, everybody's talking about how bad the rest of the Big Ten West is, how many winnable teams are in the Big Ten West, i.e. Purdue, Illinois. You could even throw Minnesota into that book now. I know you don't get another shot at them, but you already wasted your opportunity at them. I don't think it's fair to say that Nebraska has a winnable game against Illinois or has a winnable game against plug-in West Division opponent here. I don't think that's fair, because as a fan base too, look, you know your team's worth, but at the same time, you can't be ignorant to the fact that the entire Big Ten West is bad, and you are a part of that part of the Big Ten West.
Oh, it's like the old slumming in the Big Ten West comment that we talked about a lot this summer.
It's that whole narrative drives me crazy. And again, I want this program to succeed. There are positives to take away from today. There are negatives to take away from today. I do not think it is fair whatsoever to say that Illinois on a Friday night is, quote unquote, a winnable game. I really don't. I think that's just not true.
Will, I think Connor's Chicago bias is showing.
Well, I get what you're
like
saying,
Illinois.
Connor. I've actually been kind of harping on that for the past few years. How us Nebraska fans kind of think we think we deserve a lot more than we actually deserve. But going back to Will's phone call, guys, this is why I love Nebraska fans. Did you catch when he said the defense the past few weeks looked really good? And then like 30 seconds later, he said that they've been overhyped. He was just overhyping them 30 seconds before he said that the defense is overhyped. I found that hilarious. But we're talking about finding another win. Nobody, not even Will, Connor, you didn't even bring this up. Northwestern. I mean, come on. If we lose Northwestern, I think we all should riot.
Okay, I'll give you that. That's probably the one team in the West where you could say, okay, Northwestern's a winnable game. But I do not think it's fair to say that Purdue or Illinois or anybody else is a winnable game in the West Division, even in the Big Ten. I mean, you go to Michigan State. I know they've been bad, but you go to Michigan State. You host Iowa. They've been pretty, solid when it comes to the rest of the Big Ten West. I mean, you've proven over the past decade now that you cannot beat these teams, and you haven't beat these teams. So what makes now different? That's my question. Look, I get it. Illinois is underperformed, I think, to all of our expectations, right? And a couple of Purdue, I think, is underperformed to my expectations. But so is this Nebraska team. And I hate that that's like they're just automatically left out of that conversation. And that's coming from a current student.
Guys, really fast here. It's as real as it gets on the Real Reaction Show. My headphones have broken, so I'm going to go look around the radio station, see if I can find an extra pair. If you guys know where I can find an extra pair around here, let me know. But the headphones have broken. We're about to get Will out of here. We got about 4 minutes before our first break, as we'll be getting out at 7:30. We'll be hearing from JP from Kicks after we take a break. So get your phone calls in. 402-489-1240 is the number you can call again. That's 402-489-1240. We have open phone lines for you. We'll get you on. We'll get your reaction to Nebraska-Louisiana Tech. Nebraska gets a 14-point victory. That's not a cover, but they do, in fact, get the win. They're back at 500. Guys, I'm going to turn it back over to you while I go look through all the empty cabinets in here that I can, see if I can find a pair of unused headphones. I'll be right back.
So, Will, I have a question for you then. And I know that we don't want to speculate or look ahead too far, but at the same time, it's a Real Red Reaction Show. It'd be no fun not to do so. After what you've seen through 4 games, you've got 8 games left. And this is kind of going off of Will's phone call from earlier. He doesn't see another win on the schedule. Well, what's your take? Do you see any more wins on the schedule? If so, how many?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we could beat Northwestern at home. We have Purdue at home, right? That's a home game. I mean, home games against teams like that, we should win. I mean, you look back to last season, a team that was probably worse than this team now. I mean, they were able to get some wins. Iowa, Rutgers on the road. They took down Indiana at home. Those were games, especially Iowa and Rutgers. Those are games we were not supposed to lose. So, it's the Big Ten. Anything could happen. But, like I said, Northwestern, I think we could beat Purdue. I don't think we beat Illinois on the road. I mean, that's just a trap game and a half. But other than that, yeah, maybe 2 wins. Maybe you get Maryland at home just because it's Maryland and they don't come here that often. But I say 3. Maybe 4 if we're lucky.
I think that and again, this kind of goes back to my whole rant that I just had 2 seconds ago. It's just like, I think the capability of beating a Purdue at home is certainly there, but I'm not going to sit here and call it a winnable game. I mean, I think today is classified as a winnable game or a game that you should win, right? And Maryland, I know that they don't come here often. Maybe this is just me. I'm pretty high on Maryland this year. I think
they're a good team.
I mean, their offense is good. They handled Michigan State very well on the road today. Iowa coming in, and that's later in the year, obviously. You go to Wisconsin. I don't like that for you. I don't like that for you at all. And recent history doesn't like that for you either. So I would probably go with 3. 3 at the most right now, because for me, and I know the defense struggled today, and I'm not freaking out about the defense. I think that they can find their footing, and you had a couple late scratches, i.e. Cam Lenhart. And defense travels better than offense does too. It's the woes of the offense that just really, really concern me. I mean, your defense, I know the age-old saying, defense wins championships, and I love that saying. As a guy who likes watching a good defensive unit fly around and just dominate a football game, but you can only do so much when you can't put points on the board. And your defense hasn't really been turning the ball over like crazy for you either, so they can't really score. So you got to put points on the board, and as of right now, this offense has proven that it can't really do that. Another thing I want to point out, too, and Elijah and I talked about this briefly before we came on here. I know Jeff Sims came in for the one play because Harburg's helmet flew off after he was tackled in the backfield. But he came in for the one play, and he's faking the handoff to the wrong side. That tells me mentally you're just not there. Maybe I'm reading too much into that.
No, I thought that exact same thing. And that's why I don't think there's a quarterback battle right now. Like, Harburg is number one. If the reason Sims didn't go today was because he was hurt, well, he came out to play before Chuba did, which makes me think that he was good enough to play because he came out into the game. So, I don't know. Am I wrong on that? I think Harburg's for sure number one. I think if Sims was able to go in for one play, the coaches thought he was good enough to go into the game. I know he was only going in for one play because Harburg was going to come in no matter what. I mean, am I wrong on that?
I know. I don't think you're wrong on that. We're getting a couple comments in here, too, from Brennan and a couple other people about saying Harburg did the same thing. Here's my issue with that. Jeff Sims is a senior. He has played many seasons of collegiate football. He started at Georgia Tech. I know he got hurt last year, so he missed a lot of time. But he's your starting quarterback coming into the season, and even if you're hurt, I mean, it was one play. One play. This is Harburg's second start ever. I know I'm reading too much into this, but if Jeff Sims is eventually going to come back and be your starting quarterback once time has run out on Heinrich Harburg or Jeff gets healthy enough to play, I don't like seeing that from what is your starting quarterback still technically on the one play that he sees when he's trying to come back from an injury. And I don't think the play call really set him up for success either, because it looked like it was going to be a design quarterback run anyway with your quarterback that has a bum ankle. So, again, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I don't think he was really set up for success on that play either.
All right, guys, you want to hear a fun story here before we take our first break? I know Will has to skedaddle on out of here as we're going to welcome JP from Kicks into the show here in just a second. But I went to our good friend, Jill St. James. Her office is down the hallway. I had a feeling she might have some headphones in there. I did, in fact, find some headphones in Jill's office. So thank you, Jill. I plugged them in. They don't work either. So I walk all the way back down the hall and said, well, I picked the one pair of bum headphones in here. Let's go grab another pair. Grab another pair, plug them in. Nothing. And at that moment, I realized that I had kicked the little power strip down here that powers the headphone bank. So I shut off the entire headphone bank.
There you
and
go.
I'm sitting here plugging in different headphones, feeling like a fool. And I've since solved the problem. I can hear you guys again. I have my headphones working again. I was concerned.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not going to use the brand name because they don't pay me anything. These
No
are a decent chunk of change on these headphones here. I was a little bit worried. I've gotten a good 5 years of service out of them. So I've gotten my money's worth. Don't get me wrong, but I was not in the mood to go drop a couple racks on another pair of headphones. Alas, I don't have to. We're good. And we have reached our first commercial break here with the Real Red Reaction Show. Reminder, we do have open phone lines, 402-489-1240. Give us a call during the commercial break and we'll get you first thing following the commercials, as it's Elijah Herbal, Connor Clark, and Will Wilson taking you through. Will make way for JP here in just a second. We thank Will for the first 40 minutes of the show. We still have about another 40 minutes of this show left to come. We'll get thoughts from Matt Rule, from JP, and I've heard rumblings. We may also have an appearance from one Chris Schmidt as well. So that's all coming your way as the Real Red Reaction Show rolls forward here on KFOR FM 101.5, 1240 AM online, KFORnow.com, the Hail Varsity YouTube page, and the Real Red Reaction YouTube page. We'll be back with you in here in just a couple minutes.
Office hookup worth over $2,500 from Schrock Innovations.
So I've decided I'm going to throw us a little office party.
Listen mornings with Schmidt, Carol, and Jeff to get qualified to win a Schrock Resolute laptop, a Schrock desktop, a Microsoft Surface Pro 7 Plus, and accessories.
For your information, some people like work.
Check out the complete package and get additional chances to win at KFORnow.com.
Join Mark Patrick Seminars. Lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed early bird special, only $49.99. Seminar Tuesday, September 26th at the Holiday Inn Lincoln Southwest in Lincoln. Weight loss seminar starts at 5:30. Registration at 5 p.m. Stop smoking starts at 8 p.m. Registration 7:30 p.m.
ADHD. It's the child who can't pay attention or sit still in school, right? The answer may be yes. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, can be complicated and it can last a lifetime. Living with a condition can sometimes be a challenge. It may take years to accept a formal diagnosis, and it's not always easy to find the right treatment plan. Did you know that up to 75% of children and adolescents with ADHD have at least one additional mental health condition that also requires a comprehensive approach to treatment? ADHD guidelines were recently updated to reflect the need to screen for associated disorders. Be sure to talk with your child's doctor about proper screening and visit more2adhd.com for additional information. That's more2adhd.com. This message has been brought to you in partnership with ADA, ACO, and CHAD.
My teenage son only has one brain, and it'll keep developing through his mid-20s. But if he uses e-cigarettes, the nicotine in them can impact attention, learning, and memory, and can prime the brain for addiction. So I've talked to him about staying away from e-cigarettes, because my son only has one brain.
Learn more at cdc.gov/e-cigarettes today. A message from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and this station.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right?
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, pass me the intercom thing.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Don't pay for water, pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods.
Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want
us. This is the Real Red Reaction Show. Phones are open now. 402-489-1240.
The Real Red Reaction Show rolls forward here on KFOR FM 101.5, 1240 AM, online KFORnow.com, as well as the Hail YouTube page, the Real Red Reaction Show YouTube page, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter page, and KFOR on both Facebook and Twitter. We get your thoughts. Nebraska's 28-14 win over Louisiana Tech. It wasn't always pretty, but at the end of the day, it is a W. It's Elijah Herpel and Connor Clark taking you through the show today. Will has stepped to the side, replaced by the man, the myth, the legend. It's Chris Schmidt joining us from the Single Barrel in downtown Lincoln to get his thoughts on today's game. Schmidt, it's good to have you back in on this reaction show. I hope you stayed dry watching back in the stadium, and I want to get your thoughts on today's game.
Thank you. I chose to do our listeners a favor and not walk and talk or wheeze and talk, as it was said. So yeah, I'm placed appropriately so by the whiskey closet as Single Barrel's rocking. Folks are cutting into some just genuine prime beef, watching a little Ohio State, Notre Dame, and I'm not quite sure what I think of the old emerald green unis. Maybe the jerseys, yes, but all green, no, as Marvin Harrison Jr. is starting to get heated up. But with Nebraska and Louisiana Tech, there was some easiness, and I think both of you would agree or feel that way once things got tied at 7, just because of how slow and sluggish the offense was. And the reality is this: it is really Nebraska's offense is kind of a mirror of Jamal Lord and Eric Crouch. You think back to 03, you think back to 01. Some of us that were a little older then, and it was you stop the quarterback, you stop Nebraska's offense. And while it's awesome for Nebraska to have 200-yard rushers, and the game was flipped on its ear, honestly, with a couple of holding calls. This thing probably ends up 45-14, 45-17, whatever the case may be. It's a larger margin and a better optic for Nebraska if they don't have a couple of those holding calls back. A 75-yard run by Harburg called back, and then the 63-yard gallop by Grant. That really makes this thing a little bit different. That's not how it turned out. Flags were thrown. Nebraska sputtered out on those drives, and they had to keep grinding. I did like Nebraska's downhill power. I thought they got rolling that way. I like the quarterback option part of it. And you may know it's coming. You still got to stop it. Michigan will have a better chance of doing that than most next week. So Nebraska's passing game concerns me with what they are and what they aren't. And what they aren't is full of dynamic playmakers. I like that Fedoni keeps growing. But other than that, you're limited with your passing game still. And if you're forced to pass to open up the run against a defense like Michigan's, you're in trouble. The offensive line struggled in the first half. I like that power toss, Elijah and Connor, to let Grant, who likes to bounce anyway, kind of pick a hole or keep trying to get the corner. I think that's something they keep. I think the counterpart of this offense is good. And, of course, the quarterback run is what you got. It's your bread and butter right now because of who you have in Harburg, as physical as he is. Flipping it around defensively, Nebraska just had 4 tackles for loss today. Now, they neutralized and eliminated any rushing attack except for that 135-yard gallop by Louisiana Tech. So Nebraska's run defense still strong. They tackled much better in the second half. The style of offense is difficult just because of how athletic and twitchy some of the Louisiana Tech guys are. But I thought Nebraska did a pretty good job for the most part. They just didn't get a lot of pressure. It's not that Tech had all day to throw because they were pretty quick throws. That said, you would like to have had a little more pressure by Nebraska defensively. They didn't show much. They didn't blitz a lot. It was pretty base. And I thought Javen Wright had a good ball game. I thought Bullock was good. I'm concerned about Reimer. Is he dinged long term or is it short term? I thought Singleton played a good ball game. And I thought Nebraska's corners did an amazing job in space. And Newsom was fantastic. Again, Gifford also was really high level today. Ruquan Buckley had some nice interior push, especially by the goal line. And once again, fellas, we see Nebraska's special teams get a good punt. They doubted it at 4. They get a short field. And there's your knockout shot to make it a 2-score game when Harburg found Fedoni. So all in all, you probably give this thing a C+ or a B. It's tough to turn the light switch back on after a 55-minute delay. That sucked for everybody. But it's a win. It's win number 2. And Nebraska's going to have to find a way to be better at throwing the football, not just against Michigan, but I'm talking Illinois and beyond. Because Illinois seems like a game they can grind out and win 17-10, right?
You say it's winnable?
I think it. I
don't do this.
Connor and Will and I had a bit of a discussion about.
I think it's winnable. It depends on how bad you get beat up next week. And what I mean by beat up, it's not you can't get blown out next week horribly, right? Ohio State 2017 blown out. So no, I think Illinois is winnable. I think Purdue's winnable. I think Sparty's winnable. Maryland's winnable. As long as you stay somewhat healthy and you get better throwing the football. And you have some athletes in wide receiver right now that need some grooming and some time. You have fast playmakers at wide receiver as part of your recruiting class. It's just different faces than what you went into fall camp with Garcia Castaneda going out, with Betts leaving. Those are the guys you were banking on, so you weren't having to turn to freshmen. Those freshmen aren't ready yet, and they're not going to force those guys to go in when they're not ready. So this is what you got. Offensively, you're a mess. You're going to need turnovers galore next week, forced by your defense. You're going to need short fields, and you're going to need that Nebraska offensive line to play like you haven't seen. You're going to need about 5 Superman capes, and one of those capes better be worn by Teddy P if he is ready. So give me a C-plus grade for the Nebraska win tonight.
Yeah, and I actually give the Nebraska defense itself a C-plus, Schmitty. Something Connor and I were talking about earlier was the fact that this defense, it played well. It just didn't play up to the standard that they've set for themselves over the past 3 weeks. They didn't play with the same edge and the same intensity you saw against Minnesota and against Colorado and against Northern Illinois. It's just a defense that I don't want to say they were going through the motions, because I think that's very harsh for defense.
It felt like the team did that today, though, didn't it?
The team as a whole. Well, the thing is about the defense is, for a defense that felt like it lacked an edge, it still only gave up 7 points when the game was in the balance. I kind of throw that last touchdown to the side because it's after the rain delay and it's after the game still being in contest, if you will. Nebraska felt pretty good at 28-7, and I don't think the defense. I mean, they were rotating some backups. I don't think they cared too much if Northern Illinois scored on that drive, from coaching staff down to players themselves. But again, the performance wasn't what you expected. But I want to ask you guys the question. This is something we discussed in our show on Friday up at the Fredette Sports Bar and Grill. What are the headlines now that you've seen this game? You kind of went round table. What is the headline going to be on Sunday morning whenever you pick up your paper? Well, Schmidt, is it about the defense? I mean, it just is such a bleh performance that there's not many takeaways to be had, aside from the fact that Nebraska didn't play their best game. They still came away with a W, and, oh, God, here comes Michigan.
No, it's based on what you've seen through 4 games. The headline is, oh, God, here comes Michigan. I mean, that's what it is.
I would love to see that at the top of a newspaper somewhere.
Oh, no. Can we get another storm delay, right? No, the headline is, like a sub bullet point is defense can be better. A sub bullet point is you had 2 100-yard rushers for a positive standpoint. And the other headline is you were 8 of 16 throwing the football for 109 yards. Nebraska, have they cracked the 200-yard mark in passing yet this season? In any game? No. I mean, you got to have – you can be efficient and shy of 200, okay? But when it comes to yards per completion, I mean, it's not great. It's around 6 or so. You need more stout numbers than what you're putting up. They improved a little bit, but it's still just you have one hand tied behind your back is the best way to put it with this offense. Now, you've got a good right hand, which is your quarterback and your quarterback run game. But that can be taken away. And the offensive line is not good enough yet. And I don't know if they will be, maybe by midway, or if they have some changes towards the end of the season to just line up and smash people. Last thought I want to point out, too, is, what are they doing? What is Nebraska doing with their personnel when it comes to Anthony Grant? Grant is your best home run threat on offense right now. And Grant's in there the final 8 minutes when you're up. I mean, you had a delayed return. You get to finish out the fourth quarter. That should have been Emmett Johnson time. If you're not gonna burn Ives' red shirt, or you're waiting or contemplating that, I get it. But honestly, Grant should not have seen the field to risk injury. Period. End of discussion. You let Emmett do his thing. If you're going to go 3 and out, you're going to go 3 and out. Oh, well. But don't risk Grant anymore, because he's going to need 25 carries and another 5 catches. I think there's some things that they like what they can do that are in their back pocket. They were not exotic at all offensively. With what they called today, and they didn't need to be. They finally got serious in the second half and lined up and played smash mouth football. And I love that 9-play, 75-yard drive for the second touchdown, where you had a 45-yard run by Harburg, another 30-yard run by Grant, and then you kind of chipped away, you battered away, and it was no passes, it was all run, and it was a statement drive, and you needed about 4 of those to feel much better about the offense. But I think our old boy Rick Pizzo said it best on BTN with how much the offense struggled, tied at 7 going into halftime, where that O-line wasn't moving anybody in the first half, despite the size advantage. I know, JP, you've got a thought or two as you're outside the stadium, brother.
And O'Connor had a thought as well here.
Go, okay.
JP from Kicks joining us here on the postgame show. He's been attending the postgame pressers, a bit of a different perspective. We'll get to Matt Rule's postgame thoughts here in just a second. But JP, go for it. Sorry, I'm stealing your limelight.
Oh, it's all good. It just felt like, and I hope, and this is the hopeful, optimistic person that I am as far as a Husker fan. I hope we were just playing possum. Like the fact that we kept on running the ball with Heinrich over again. Granted, some of it was very successful. Some of it was very pedestrian. And so I'm hoping we get to open the playbook a little bit more when Michigan comes to town, and that we do well with them. Yes, Michigan's a powerhouse. That's what like you said, the headline's going to be tomorrow on the paper is, oh God, here comes Michigan. But defense is good enough. And from hearing from Nick Heinrich and Singleton in the presser, which you guys will hear later on, they're not happy. They're glad we won, but they're not happy with what the defense did today. So it's a very good possibility that they're going to come out and just want to smash somebody in the mouth the entire 4 quarters. And that's what you hope for your defense can do what they're supposed to do. I agree with Chris absolutely that Grant should not have been in there at the end of the game. It should have been Johnson so he can get some time and get ready to go, because we will need him, because Grant can't do it all and Heinrich can't do it all. And so we've got to get these other guys ready to go for games like Michigan.
And if there is any positive here today, as I look at Michigan coming a week from now to link into Memorial Stadium, Michigan is not the type of team that has an offense that's built to run away from you. They are also a body blow Big Ten football team. I think your defense can give you a shot, but the problem is I look at the offense, JP, you wonder what else can this offense pull out of their bag of tricks. My concern is that we have seen what this Husker offense already is. This isn't them trying to play coy and keep things close to their chest, that they just are what they are at this point, and that's an offense that is very limited in the scope of what they can do. And if there's, again, any positive, I think the defense can keep you in that game. But the negative is I don't see any reason why Michigan isn't going to come out there running 4 linebackers and 4 down linemen every single play. And instead of having a safety, you bring in that sub linebacker and you put 8 guys in the box every single play, because Michigan's defensive back room is rangy. They're athletic. I don't see Nebraska's wide receivers posing too much of a threat to them. And based on what I've seen from Nebraska's offense, I don't think Nebraska's offense is going to pose too much of a deep threat to that Michigan secondary. So I think they can really come up with damn your wide receivers, put 8 in the box, and dare you to throw it over their heads if Nebraska hasn't shown they can do that. That's my concern, is that what Nebraska is staring down right now. And again, not to get too far ahead of myself, we have a full week of coverage coming your way before we get to Michigan. But the concern to me is that Nebraska is going to be playing in a game that's 10-0 in the third quarter, and it feels out of reach because of how dominant that Michigan defense can be. That's the concern right now as you look ahead to Michigan. Not that they're going to run away from you and make you look foolish, just that once they get a touchdown on the board or any points on the board, it'll pretty much feel out of reach because of how good their defense is. Their defense is that good, Michigan is. And I don't know what the offense can add to what they've already shown. You're just limited in what you are.
Look, and to JP's point, too, about Michigan next week, you better throw everything that you got in the playbook at them. I mean, there's no reason not to. And this is a game that you're not going to be favored to win in. You're going to be favored to lose by probably a pretty good margin in. So you better be able to throw the kitchen sink, if you will, at this Michigan team. And to Elijah's point, too, I mean, 10-0 game shouldn't feel out of reach, right? But at the same time, it's probably going to feel out of reach because you can't score the ball. And back to the headline thing real quick. I think you go back to our discussion on Friday, as you said, Elijah, and I still don't think it changes. I know the defensive players aren't happy with their performance today. They still only gave up 14 points. This offense continues to be the question mark of the team. It will continue to be the question mark of the team. And that brings me back to my rant earlier about winnable games. You guys don't need to hear me yell about that again because I'll just bore everybody to death. But that's how I feel. I think, JP, you're absolutely right. You really got to open up the playbook. I mean, you're playing with literally – you are playing with nothing to lose next week, and I think that's how they should approach it.
What did you? I want to hear this rant, Connor. Just give me the cliff notes here. Like you're a tutor at USC. Do it for me. And just tell me here what's Connor Clark at C_Clark_27 on Twitter, folks. What is
A lot of
the
comments now.
what is the circled winnable games here?
Well, that my argument is that I don't think it's fair for any Nebraska fans and or media members right now to say that there is a winnable Big Ten West game left on your schedule. I do not think that is a fair comment.
Even Northwestern, dude?
Besides Northwestern. Because Will
Take
Wilson
the purple glasses out there, Chachi. I mean,
I'm leaving all bias out of it. Don't worry. Besides Northwestern, I'll leave that as a caveat. But there is not a single game that I believe that you could say is winnable. You can.
The problem with that argument, and I didn't get a chance to chime in this earlier. My headphones briefly broke, but they didn't break.
Did you throw them or did they break? Is it like your Nintendo 64 controller?
No, Schmitty, you would know in the studio there's the power strip underneath here. I hit my foot on the power strip. It shut off the headphone bank, and I was really concerned that I broke a pair of headphones. I didn't. We're good. We're back. But my problem with that argument is the fact that if a game is not winnable, it is therefore unwinnable. I think if you're saying if there's not a winnable game left,
it's unwinnable.
then you're saying it's unwinnable. What's the difference?
No.
Either you can win it or you can't win it. There's the two sides. There's no gray area.
The statement winnable to me says that you're probably thinking that Nebraska can/will win this game. That's what I get from that. And I think I just don't think it's a fair statement right now. And a lot of it is based off of, well, if this group can improve to do this, or if this group can improve to do that. I'm going based off of what we have seen right this second. And I don't think, besides Northwestern, it's a fair comment to say that there's a winnable game for Nebraska. And I'm saying that, like, for sure you will win the game left on Nebraska's schedule in the West Division. I really don't.
But let me jump in. Here's the problem. Here's the tug of war. The defense, even as so as they look today, there's moments. They tackle well, they fly to the football. You've seen them heat up quarterbacks. You've seen the good, and you saw the average. We'll call today average, and it was still 14 points is all they allowed, right? The defense gives you that thought of it's a winnable game because of the defense, right? But you want special teams.
But my argument to that is because of the offense, it doesn't seem like a winnable game.
Right. And that's the other part of that tug of war, right? You got two sumos on each side, and there's that canal for alligators, right? So right now, if you got to lean yay or nay, you got to lean nay on some of them, right, fellas? Because of how ineffective or one-dimensional the offense looks. The defense is going to have to give it. I think the defense can give you a superhuman effort in a handful of games, but I think you're going to need that complementary football part. And instead of getting moments of complementary football, you're going to have to get multiple quarters of complementary football. And that seems miles away. So while I don't think you're wrong, Connor, that you can make an argument where Nebraska could lose a lot of Big Ten West games, I think the winnable games of Purdue. I think the winnable game is Northwestern. We'll get back to you on the weather against Maryland. And then let's see what Iowa does point-wise tonight. But next week is absolutely not winnable. It's just, can you survive? Can you survive next week? And the defense will come back a little pissed off because they didn't play their best game. At least you got that going in. At least they'll have somewhat of a chip on their shoulder. And we'll see if the offense can get a little bit better. Again, can you get better personnel or healthier personnel in at left tackle? Because, Elijah, I want to go to you on this. If Teddy P's ready to go and you move Turner into a guard spot, or Piper keeps playing better, he had a good game today, and then maybe you look at what's going on at right guard, and Benhart continues to hold steady and not be a problem at right tackle. Can you talk yourself into that offensive line being better with Teddy, that domino effect we talked about?
Here's the thing. Ethan Piper, I think, is solidified as the left guard, even if Corcoran is replaced at the left tackle spot. What Ethan Piper brings you that offsets some of the issues in his game. He's a little bit forward leaning on his pass set whenever you watch. And his run blocking at the point of attack, he isn't one of the guys that's going to drive somebody for 15 yards. But what he does bring is he is one of the most talented Nebraska offensive linemen at getting to the second and third level and getting a hat on a hat. He's agile from side to side once he gets up to that level, more than you'd think based on how he looks. And that's not a slight towards Ethan Piper, but based on how he's played in the past and kind of body composition, I don't think you'd expect him to have that mobility to get out and block at the second and third level so well. He does that very well. I'd say better than any other Nebraska offensive lineman right now. And you saw his ability to pull around on that power play today and be able to either kick out the end or pull up to second level and get that linebacker. I think Ethan Piper is a solid left guard option. I don't think he gets moved, but I think Prohaska, if he feels ready to go against Michigan next week, I think you have to have him on the football field. Something I talked about previously in the show, something I tweeted about, is whenever Prohaska came in as the extra offensive lineman for that series, whenever Harburg busted off the 40-yard run, Gabe Irvin busted off that 30-yard run, and then the 4th and 1 where he bounced out and gets down to the goal line, eventually punches it in. All those long runs, Teddy Prohaska was on the field for you. The push he was getting on that right side of the offensive line was a real game changer for that drive. And I think that maybe not night and day. I think the difference will be noticeable, though, whenever Teddy Prohaska is able to be a go at left tackle. And I think based on how we've seen him ramped up over the past couple of weeks, I think this coaching staff is hoping that he is going to be a go for Michigan. I think Teddy is a guy that is going to be wanting to be a go for Michigan. I'm not confident enough in saying he is going to be the guy next week, but we're getting very close to a point where Teddy Prohaska is going to claim his left tackle spot back. And I think for Nebraska's offensive sake, you want it to be against Michigan because what he brings from a run blocking point of view on that edge is something that Turner Corcoran is not even close to. And if he can just hold his own in pass protection, that is a major, major win for the Nebraska offensive line and can open up a little bit more for you in both the running and passing game.
Agree, and we'll see if he's healthy and able to go. As this is Real Red Reaction, 489-1240, 489-1240. You dial us up, 800-825-5865. You can find us on the Real Red Reaction YouTube channel. Watch the show there. Stream at KFORnow.com as well as KFOR Facebook and Twitter, along with Hill Varsity. So that's ways to find it. JP, a final thought, brother, as you're making your way homeward bound, that give me a grade and give me a player of the game. Give me a game ball for each side of the ball.
Well, I think for Anthony Grant, for sure, getting the player of the game as far as the game ball, just constantly grinding and through everything he's been through with the fumbleitis and everything else, I think he's definitely stepped up his game. So I look forward to seeing him continue to do that. Heinrich was a close one, I'd say, because he, again, did everything he needed to do to be the leader. And it's just tremendous for what he's doing. On defense, I think the defense as a whole did very well. They just got to keep pounding away. Gunnarsson, probably the lead dog there. He did a lot of work to get a lot of pressure on their quarterback throughout the game.
JP, should I be locked in an insane asylum for my take earlier, or do you agree with me?
No, I think you have a lot of good points and can avoid the insane asylum. I think there are some games
just for this
that we should win. Whether that happens is
you just got silenced, unfortunately.
I think he finished his point.
Oh, no, I don't think. Yeah, I finished my point. He doesn't need to go to an insane asylum. He's fine.
Okay. All right.
Stamp of approval. I got one of them. I'll take it.
JP, appreciate you sticking around for a segment. You running off to the bar? Go get yourself a drink or two?
Probably, yeah. After a 45-minute rain delay where I almost took a nap on the desk up there, I need something to get my ass up.
There you go.
Thanks, brother.
Time for JP. Appreciate you, JP.
Happy Saturday.
You bet.
Real Reaction Show rolls forward here as we have about 20 minutes of airtime left here as Schmitty, Connor, and Elijah. Schmitty, you have something for us?
I'll just say, do we want to do a TV timeout and then fire up a little rule?
I was thinking rule and then a TV timeout.
You can do either one.
Sounds good. Let's get to Coach Rule. He was short and sweet with the post game, but Real Red Reaction on KFOR, KFORnow.com, and we'll catch up with Coach Rule right now. His post-game thoughts.
All right. Credit to Louisiana Tech. I thought they came to play. They thought they didn't back down. We'd seen them be down 17-3 against Florida International, come back, win the game. We saw them down 17 last week, come back, tie the game. So we knew that they'd battle all the way to the end. Thought our guys hung in there. It wasn't our best game. But I think anytime we have 315 yards rushing, we're going to be excited about that. But some of the option plays were really good plays for us. The speed options allowed us to get on the perimeter. But there's still a lot of things to improve and clean up. So we'll keep battling away, trying to get better. I'm happy for the guys. They went 1-0 this week. They handled the rain delay. Very appreciative for everybody that came to the game, and certainly for the people that came back after the rain delay and were there to cheer us on at the very end. I appreciate them very, very, very much. So with that, I'll see what questions you have.
9 plays, 9 runs, 85 yards to start the third quarter. What kind of statement were you trying to make with those calls, and what statement did you make to start the second?
Yeah, I'll say it again. I think when you come out with when you have a option attack, you're going to get different defenses, and so part of it is seeing what people are doing, right? So we were getting a lot of Sam strong safety from the field. We were getting a lot of bear, a lot of things that you have to have specific answers to. So we found that. We played with some tempo on that drive. Anthony made some big plays. Lindemeyer's the guy that's really stepped up for us recently and was collapsing the edge, and so we were able to hit some plays on that drive. So I think it was just more a deal about hey, we found something. Let's stay with it. Let's get some first downs. Let's go from there and attack. And I thought the guys did that on that drive.
What's your early assessment on Harvard's day? And was he banged up at all at the end, or did he just want to go to?
Yeah, no. When we came back in, he got wrapped. I think he felt something. He felt tight, and I think he was maybe cramping a little bit at the end. So, we went ahead and went to Chuba there to finish the game out. So I think had we not had the rain delay, conceivably he would have finished. Just when he came in, he just tightened up.
What is he giving your quarterback position? Just the stability, the lack of turnovers you guys have had as an offense the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think anytime we protect the football, we have a chance to play good defense, to control the game on the ground. Again, I thought we were at 3:15 there early in the fourth quarter. Things go a little differently. I thought maybe we get a couple more. Those 2 runs called back might have been a 400, running for 400, 450. That's kind of day you'd like to have out there. But I think he did a good job. He executed the play calls. Some things he didn't. Some things he didn't execute. So the great thing about Heinrich is he's trying to get better. We're coaching him through it. But for the most part, I thought he managed the game pretty well. But there's, he, like all of us, like me, all of us have to continue to get better.
Where did you stand with Sims and his availability today? And how does Heinrich's play the last 2 weeks impact that position moving forward?
Jeff was probably was able to go, but limited in terms of what he can do in terms of the ability to run the football. He did come in for one play. Heinrich signaling. He's got Chuba's signaling, so to find his helmet. Jeff went in at the end. I think Jeff was probably tight there, just his ankle, just after being out there all day. Didn't see the use of having him go re-injure that. But I think Jeff's an excellent player. He played 2 really tough teams on the road, and I thought, a lot of things that happened, everyone's just going to lump on him. Some of those things weren't his fault. So we're going to get them all ready to play and play the guy that we think gives us the best chance to win.
What did you say about Anthony Grant, his performance today?
It looked like it was a good day for Anthony. I think the biggest thing was the thing I was most proud of. If you put a camera on me, I went over there and about punched him in a good way, fired up, because he's the one who made the block on Fedoni's touchdown. We checked that versus that Sam Strong safety. We knew that if they brought it, it would be there, and he scanned all the way back. And so those are the things that we've been working on Anthony to get, not just to be a runner, but to be a guy that can be effective in protections. And he did that. And that was a huge play that, really to me kind of opened things up.
Over these past 2 weeks, what have you seen that gives you confidence just going into kind of the chief of the conference season now?
You guys know me. I don't think that. I don't really. I've got confidence in our guys. To me, you're never as good as you think you are when you win. You're never as bad as you think you are when you lose. We're just trying to get better. I just keep challenging them, to not listen to the part of you that wants to say, well, we should beat this team. I don't know about this team. Just go come in every week, work and play the game, see what happens, right? Let's go compete for however many games we have left, 8 games left, and see what happens. So we have good players. We're playing doing some good things. We're doing some things that aren't very good. Some of our kicking game stuff is just not, we're kicking the ball out of bounds, missed another field goal today. So things have to, a 23-yard punt, things have to improve, but we have the ability to do that. The key is, I told the guys to go celebrate, have fun tonight, come in tomorrow, and then we have to be really, really serious about, how we improve. Anything that happened in that game, they were warned about. We were warned about number 6. We were warned about number 1. We were warned about how good those guys are, and they were good players. And so, for us, I'm glad we found a way to get the win. I'm glad we kind of did some of the things that we believe in terms of taking the ball away at the end and run the football. But we just had to hit overdrive as a team.
What was the locker room like during the lightning delay, and how do you stay locked in when you have no idea how long it's going to be before you play?
Yeah, we went in initially. We met as a staff real quick. The guys were kind of in there. We met initially about kind of our plan as a staff. Corey did a great job of when we thought we had about 10 minutes left, kind of getting the guys up in that locker room. We took them out there. It was very sort of, I really didn't know how much time. Even when we got out there, I thought it was going to be 10 minutes. It was like 12 and 13. So, those things are hard, right? So we want to be the type of organization. What's next? Like, we'll play now. We'll play tomorrow. The guys were enjoying playing. They were like, let's go play in the Hawks. Let's finish this thing. So I'm glad we got a chance to finish playing. I'm glad they had a chance to finish playing. They went down, scored a touchdown, which is disappointing to me. But we got guys more reps. So, but I thought we did a good job. Our strength staff and training staff and nutritionists, and Kristen and all them, they did a good job of making sure the guys were ready when they came back out.
What gave you confidence that the Leak Road fake would work?
We've had it up the last 2 weeks. It's just a numbers game, right? And so we repped it. Going back to Colorado, those 2 balls where we fumbled it, it was going to get called right there if we don't fumble those 2 balls. So we've been working on it for weeks. And it's something that we've had in our arsenal. Ed's had in his arsenal for, 10 years. We always have it available. And this week we thought maybe we had the numbers, and, we went ahead and pulled it out.
Have you ever run that before in your coaching career?
Oh, yeah. You'd have to ask Ed for when. I can't remember. I'm sorry. But, we've run it a couple times, it seemed like a sure field goal, seemed like points. But at the same time, I just wanted to also send, if it's there, if it's not there, we weren't going to do it. But I want to send a message to our guys, and I was really happy for Timmy. That's a guy that was a starting kicker. He's there. He's the backup kicker. He's the backup holder. Unbelievable team guy, great student. So he had a chance to go affect the game. And I thought that was another one of those plays like Fedoni's touchdown that kind of gave us some juice. Yeah, I won't know much more till later. So I'm not really sure what it was. Just kind of symptom based. So I'll wait, until I know more. But I don't know exactly what it was. It wouldn't be anything long term. But his availability for this week, I don't know right now.
What was your overall evaluation of your special teams play today?
I wouldn't say it was the best we've done. We gave up a 100-yard kickoff return that got called back. The kickoffs weren't, exactly where we needed them to be. The first one was fantastic. But, like anything else, I'm sure there was something, put one down at the 1-yard line, which was a big play. Had the fake field goal. So we made some plays that, on special teams, to me, you want to execute and play really clean. And then when you have a chance, make a couple plays to help you win. We made 2 plays that helped us win. There's just some plays we're leaving out there right now that, even that last touchdown, comes off a short punt that we just had to be a little bit better on. So again, that's why I say you're never as bad as you are. We're kind of where we are. We just got to keep battling to get better. And I think we have guys on special teams that can make plays that'll help us, right? So thankfully we got back on that kickoff return that we fumbled. There's some things there that just, aren't the way we want to play.
How encouraged are you about the running game? You run for 312 and could have done a lot more. You don't get this long one.
Yeah, I think the ability to run some option with it. We hit a couple of RPOs today that goes passing yards. I think our ability to last week we're running. It's hard to do what we're doing, right? Like to run 2-back, 22 personnel power, and hit it for a big play, and then come back and hit a speed option for a play, and hit a zone read for a play. Again, from the very beginning, it's been we're putting in an offense and a defense that's versatile, that can handle the elements, that takes advantage of the players that we have. Sometimes there's a little learning curve along with that. Again, they were going to sell out and take away the run, and I was glad that we got the yardage that we did get. And again, two called back that really hurt.
Those 2 you had called back, the 70 and 75-yarder. They were holding calls on the receivers. Did you see those as being overly aggressive or like lack of discipline? How do you coach that?
Oh, I wouldn't say those were lack of discipline at all. I thought they were I thought they were trying to block the way you're supposed to block. I'm not allowed to say much else other than that. But I mean, again, if a guy gets out here and pulls a guy down, we don't want any of that stuff, right? But I thought they were striking and running their feet and blocking the way. Ron Brown shows me those cut-ups of back in the day. We were driving our feet trying to run guys out of bounds. We were trying to do that. So, they called him. It is what it is. But I thought, messy the tape, I might feel completely differently. But from what I saw on the field, looking up at the replay, I thought guys were playing hard. So,
All right.
thank you, guys.
It's time to get real. Whatever is needed following each Husker football game with the Real Red Reaction Show. Immediately after each game, we go live for your unbridled opinions on KFOR and on the KFOR Facebook page.
Now at Menards, save big money in your next project with 11% off everything. Mohawk Perfect Seal laminate flooring is waterproof, durable, and easy to install, making it the perfect choice for active lifestyles. Mohawk Statements laminate flooring is $2.99 per square foot after 11% rebate. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through September 24th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Just a U.S. taxpayer expense. Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
New message.
Your social security number has been suspended. If you do not contact us, your account will be deactivated.
Scammers are aggressive when they contact a potential victim. Social Security Administration employees will never threaten you for information or promise benefits in exchange for information. In those cases, the call is fraudulent and you should just hang up. Don't provide any personal or financial information to these thieves. Call the Social Security Fraud Hotline at 1-800-269-0271.
I stopped smoking with Mark Patrick's hypnosis when nothing else worked. 1 year later, my wife Michelle and I attended the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis seminar. In 2 months, lost 43 pounds, and she lost 18 pounds.
And we feel great.
Join Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar. Lose the weight or stop smoking. Early bird special. Only $49.99 guaranteed. Seminar Tuesday, September 26th at the Holiday Inn Lincoln Southwest in Lincoln. Weight loss seminar 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminar 8 p.m. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Coming up on a Monday on the Morning Hookup from 10 to 11, we'll welcome back Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald.
Get your thoughts on now. The Real Red Reaction Show is unfiltered at KFOR.
Back in here on the Real Red Reaction Show, one final segment as it's Elijah Herbal, Connor Clark, and Chris Schmidt giving you our final thoughts on Nebraska-Louisiana Tech. It's a 14-point victory for the Huskers. No cover for all our friends who made it up to the sportsbook this week. We apologize if you took the side of the Huskers. But alas, that is football. Nebraska, they're not going to care if they cover the spread or not. The win is a win, and getting back to 500 is a win for the day and a chance to get above 500. Next week against Michigan, I say with some concern. Chance, though, to get back above 500. Chris Schmidt, Connor Clark, and Elijah Herbal as we go around the horn here, get some final thoughts. I know that people that make the decisions around here for those 90 minutes, I don't want to anger them. They do sign my paychecks. Therefore, 90 minutes is. We're going to have some final thoughts here as we go around the horn first with Schmitty. We kind of talked about the headlines for tomorrow already, Schmitty. What do you think the topic of discussion becomes as we move into the next week, get geared up for Michigan? What are you, me, and Connor going to be talking about this next week on the Hail Varsity Radio Show?
We're going to be talking about, the chance, the likelihood, the impossibility of Goliath that is Michigan, right? It's the barometer for the Big Ten. It's the barometer, quite honestly, for college football because of what they've done the last couple of years, going to the playoffs, conquering Ohio State. And it's been a build by Harbaugh where they've been interesting to watch, right? They have the offensive and defensive lines. They've got guys that have gone to the NFL, but they get that occasional 5-star. They get a boatload of 4 stars, but the 3 stars they get are really talented. And my attention turns to Blake Corum. We had a chance to meet him and spend time with him at Indy for Big Ten Media Days, and just what type of talented back he is for Michigan. They're 3 tight end formation. McCarthy's not asked. He's talented and he's mobile enough, right? So he's a problem defensively. He's a smart quarterback that takes care of the ball. But just Michigan's offense is downhill. It's ground and pound. Their play action, and then the way they get tight ends and their wideouts in space with their route tree is super impressive. They didn't look great today against Rutgers, but they looked tough enough, right? That was kind of a ball game in the first half, and then they just strangled you. So that's going to be the concern for Nebraska, a lot like you saw against Colorado. How long can the defense hang on, and what can the offense do to provide a glimmer of hope, a little bit of help, and some points on the board, even some offensive field position based on getting some 3 and outs. Can you tilt the field? Can you get short fields? Can you take advantage? And what can your special teams do in a return type situation? Nebraska's shorthanded, and they're 1 play away from being in real trouble, as much as you're seeing Grant and Harburg. Each guy had 18 carries. That's 36 of the carries today. That's the horses you got to ride, though, to have any semblance of success. So it's not just about usage, but it turns into a question about health, not just for getting out of Saturday next week, but also the rest of the season. And what can you do if you're Satterfield? What can you do if you're Coach Rule to have some sort of threat with the passing game so you're not so one-dimensional? Again, I'll say it and underline it, the offensive line not good enough to just line up and hammer away. Now, we have not seen Nebraska have an opportunity yet to play up to somebody of the caliber and level of Michigan. There'll be a lot of juice with this football team. The defense, as Connor touched on, they're not happy with how their performance was. So I think you'll see a refocused defense, and I think you'll see maybe some new option wrinkles. I mean, Nebraska will play option football next week and try and get downhill, but ultimately the headlines are going to be is how bad will Saturday look when the final gun goes off? Will Nebraska hang around and be respectable? Will they have a chance at an upset? Will they get crushed at home? I mean, there's some multiple choices here, but it just ain't looking good based on where the programs are at and the different levels of talent. Nebraska just doesn't have that many options, and Michigan's got too good a defense. They'll be able to take away what Nebraska does well. So, that's the question: is how does Nebraska go U.S. Olympic hockey team against Russia next Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is the offense has got to be better, and that's what you got to take going forward. Obviously, improvements can be made on all sides of the ball, but at the end of the day, the offense has to be better. You got to score more points if you want to win ball games. You got to score more points if you want to be in games against a team like Michigan. One quick question I have for the both of you before we get out of here. We got only a couple minutes left, but what's that spread opening up at in your mind right now against Michigan? What's that looking like for you two?
17.5, easy.
Wow.
That's the starting number.
Words out of my mouth. 17.5 is exactly what I'm thinking.
I'm thinking 21.
And I'm thinking, no matter what that total is, I'd lean towards the under. Michigan's not a flying offense. Nebraska's going to be able to take away some of what they do well, which is the ground and pound. I think Michigan wears and as the game goes on. But how I see it right now, probably a 20-3 game. that's kind of my early forecast, and you guys can check back with Hail Varsity Radio next Friday as we get the Friday forecast rocking to see how that changes and see how what I'm sure overreaction is right now. But I see it as a 20-13 game for Nebraska. I don't think the total will be 23 points. I think it'll probably be somewhere closer to that 40 number. The 40 is probably reasonable, but I don't see Nebraska scoring a lot of points unless they really, really refine that option. The option is probably the number one bright spot from Nebraska's offense today. They ran the option well, but you better believe now they've shown it, Michigan's going to be ready for it next week.
Can Nebraska's defense next Saturday go out and win the game for them?
No.
Can they go Michigan State 2021? Can they go Big 12 Championship 09? Can they go out and win the game for Nebraska next Saturday? Strip sack, short field, turnover. I mean, that's the scenario I see. And think about where Nebraska was at 2 years ago. And I know they lost, but I mean, they had a golden opportunity, right, against a playoff team in Michigan. It didn't get done as Ohio State just busted one off from 70 yards out. Travion Henderson house calls, 10-0 Buckeyes. I wonder how much. I mean, Nebraska will empty the tank next Saturday. The team will do that. What's it going to look like at the end of the day?
And the only problem with that, and that is Nebraska's avenue to victory next week. Should they get it done, it's going to be the defense carrying the weight. The margin for error in a game like that is going to be absolutely tiny from the defense. You're talking, the way I see it right now, if Michigan's offense puts up at least 10 points, we're talking above 10. That's a tough pull for the Husker offense. Like, you're talking, the defense is going to have to set up Nebraska's offense for a score, either a short field or get some points on the board yourself. And then you're going to have to hold Michigan under that 2 touchdown mark, preferably below 10. That's how you're going to have to do it next week against the Wolverines. And they're not a high flying offense. I don't think that Nebraska's at risk of having this turn into a, 2017 Ohio State type game or 2016 Ohio State, or literally pick any year that Nebraska played Ohio State during the regular season since that inaugural game in the Big Ten. Pick any one of them. It doesn't matter. It's not going to turn into that based on how Michigan plays the game. If Michigan gets up by a couple scores, they're just going to continually hand that ball off. They don't have playmakers on the outside aside from Roman Wilson. That's like their guy outside. The wide receiver position doesn't have a large number of playmakers like you do at Ohio State. Where they have playmakers at the running back position, they've been trying to get Corum and Edwards involved in that passing game a little bit more. No matter how you slice it, though, Michigan is not cut out to put up 50 points next week on Nebraska. And Nebraska's defense isn't cut out that way either. That's why I'm saying 20-3 is your score, because I don't have doubts that Nebraska's defense is going to play hard. And I don't have doubts that Nebraska's defense will keep Michigan a point total that Nebraska's offense will at least be in it. But the question becomes, will Nebraska be able to move the ball at all on that Michigan front?
First team to 13, right?
Yeah.
That's your finish line. Whoever gets to 13 first, there you go.
Unbelievable, but it's true.
No, Nebraska can be in it. The crowd's got to be fired up. The crowd was loaded up today. They were in better spirits. Than last week. It was a freaking morgue a week ago, quite honestly, because you're coming in 0-2. But it's got to be, start the tailgate and body shots at 7 a.m. I mean, it's got to be.
Good thing the kickoff time got moved
crazy.
back.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
They need something to go right within those first couple minutes of the game as well, Nebraska. Whether that be you get the ball, you drive down, at least get some points on the board. That would be enough to get Nebraska into this game. A 3 and out on the first Michigan possession, it might be all it takes. Really, a first quarter takeaway from your defense is probably the most likely avenue. You need something to go right early to get those fans into the game, because it's not a night game. You're not going to have the light show to look forward to at the end of the third quarter. That's been electric. You're not going to have that in that 2:30 kick.
No, you're right on. It's got to be, as much as Matt Rule doesn't like it, a fast start, or at least there's got to be something that happens to give you some hope, to give the crowd some hope.
And to give the team some juice as well. That's my number one takeaway from the game today. Nebraska didn't have enough juice against Louisiana Tech. You had enough from a talent point of view, and your defense carried the water for you to go and get a win. Nebraska was lacking in juice. I would give their juice a D rating today in terms of execution from the defense. They missed some tackles. The execution was a B. The juice is a D. Overall, I give the defense a C+. Overall, I probably give the offense a B-. He cleaned up some of those first half miscues. The offensive line lacked a little juice as well. It just wasn't a team that looked like they were ready to go lay it all on the line today against Louisiana Tech. Obviously, when you have a top 5 team come to town next week, you have a little bit more reason to get up for that game, to be hyped up for that game. And if you can get the crowd behind you in that game, I mean, I'm never counting Nebraska out in a home game where something goes right and the fans are behind Nebraska. Not going to count out Nebraska. You just have very, very little margin for error next week when Michigan comes to town. But this isn't big, bad, scary Ohio State of the past couple of seasons with an offense that'll beat you into the dirt. It's not that. It's a slow, methodical Michigan offense that if you can get some positive things happening early, get your defense into that game. We've seen the rotation, that defense. I don't think Michigan wears down this Nebraska front seven as much as they've worn down some other teams. Nebraska's running defense is stout. The defense matches up really, really well with Michigan. But as Schmitty said, race to 13 points. I have a lot more concerns about the Nebraska offense even being able to reach 13 points next week.
Michigan's frankly into torture. All right. They're into torture. All right. And they like to go inflict it with their defense on a very, very pedestrian offense.
Their offense
and that's where it goes wrong.
Paper cuts. Their offense is death by 10,000 paper cuts.
And then they throw lime juice on it. Fellas, enjoy your night. It was fun. Appreciate everyone for chiming in and checking in on Real Red Reaction. We'll post it up to the YouTube channel. And, of course, can watch the rerun on it with the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed, KFOR Facebook and Twitter. And Connor and Elijah, awesome work, fellas. Thanks for holding it down today.
Yeah, and for Will Wilson and JP as well.
sir.
Connor, do you have any final thoughts before we get out?
Glad that they were able to pick up a win today. Obviously, things need to get better, but you are now allowed to enjoy your Saturday night with another Husker win. So enjoy it.
Cheers, fellas.
All right, cheers, fellas. For Will Wilson and JP, it's Elijah Herbal signing off with Connor Clark, Chris Schmidt, the Real Red Reaction Show. We'll talk with you next week following Nebraska, Michigan. Good, bad, or ugly. We'll be here, and we'll be ready to talk about it.
Actually, real quick, at the bar.
Nice.
Pre-game, the bar, pre-game, the bar, post-game.
I might have to come stop by.
For Real Red Reaction and the weekend edition. So put that on the calendar.
The bar, the best spot if you're in the win or lose, we booze crowd. The bar is your spot to be, and that's where we'll be next week. That's where we'll talk to you again. And again, check out Hail Varsity Radio all week long, us three, 4 to 6, right here on KFOR, wherever you found this show online as well. You can find it there as we'll be getting you geared up for Nebraska, Michigan. That's when we'll talk to you again.